Now that you better understand the why behind the curriculum adoption, we're going to jump straight into the curriculum and look at the text that supports student learning throughout the 4 modules in kindergarten. Before getting started with the text, let's review how EL education is fiercely focused on equity for all children. All children deserve schools that foster their unique abilities, give them the real opportunity to achieve high academic standards, and help them take their full place in society for which they are well prepared when they leave school. Equity is the foundation of the entire EL curriculum. From this foundation of equity comes what EL calls the dimensions of student achievement. Those are on the screen displayed in the 3 rings. First, being the mastery of knowledge and skills. Students demonstrate proficiency and deeper understanding, apply their learning, think critically, and communicate clearly. The next circle is all around character. Students work to become effective learners, to become ethical people, and to contribute to a better world. The last ring is high quality work. Students create complex work, demonstrate craftsmanship, and create authentic work. Let's start by reviewing the Kindergarten Module 1, which the topic is Toys and Play, with a focus on building literacy in a collective classroom. In this module, students build their literacy and citizenship skills as they engage in the study of toys and play. Students consider norms and behaviors for sharing toys and interacting with peers through structured conversation, learning experiences such as role play and guided discovery of toys, and an analysis of the module text. Students learn more about toys as they consider what makes something a toy and what makes toys fun. They learn to sort and describe toys by specific attributes. They also begin to think about perspectives as they discuss and write about their own toy preferences. Let's look at some of the central texts that support the learning in this module. The first one is Llama Llama Time to Share. This picture book uses colorful illustrations and playful rhyme to tell the story of Llama Llama as he learns to negotiate the challenges of learning to share with his new neighborhood Nellie. When the two meet, Mama reminds Llama to share. Nellie and Llama begin cautiously playing, but when Nellie plays with Llama's favorite stuffed animal, he decides he doesn't like sharing. This book is an appropriately complex read aloud for kindergartners. The rationale of using this text is that it develops student understanding of norms and behaviors for sharing toys and interacting with peers through a series of close read-alouds. It also offers entry into close reading and the concept of using specific details to answer text-dependent questions. Using this text, students examine key details, identify major story elements, and describe the relationship between the illustrations and the story. Students use the illustrations from Llama Llama to share to support a reflection on Unit 1 assessment about what the main character Llama Llama has learned about playing with others. Considerations for the reader is that this book is easily accessible text designed to introduce students to reading closely and answering text-dependent questions. Since students are asked to explain their thinking with details from the text they cannot read themselves, tasks are designed to support recall and the location of specific details through multiple readings and careful attention to illustrations. The next central text is called Have Fun, Molly Lou Melon. This picture book tells the story of a little girl, Molly Lou Melon, who creates her own incredible toys out of found objects. When a new neighbor, Gertie, moves next door, Molly Lou invites her over to play. She is amazed by Molly Lou's incredible homemade toys and eventually decides that creating homemade toys can be just as fun as playing with fancy store-bought versions. The story blends colorful characters and a playful language to send a message of creativity and friendship. The complexity in meaning and language features are balanced by repetitive sentences, predictable plot structure, and richly detailed illustrations. This is an appropriately complex read aloud for kindergartners. The rationale for using this book is that students are asked to explain their thinking using details from a text they cannot read themselves. so the tasks are designed to support recall and the location of specific detail through multiple readings. Students may need additional support in recognizing repeated language, connecting events, and noticing detail in the illustration as the story is read. Considerations are the text deepens students' understanding of citizenship skills in relation to the learning about toys and play from Units 1 and 2. It also offers students the opportunity to apply what they have learned about reading closely to slightly more complex text. The predictable plot and detailed illustrations support students in practicing and extending their learning about key details. The major story elements and vocabulary. Have Fun Molly Lou Melon is also used to learn about and discuss how people's perspectives about toys can change and prepare students for the performance task. Additional central text in this module are Toys Galore and Playing with Friends. Moving into Kindergarten Module 2, the topic is around Weather Wonders, with the focus being learning through science and story. In this module, students build their literacy and science skills as they engage in the study of weather. Students study the science of weather through various informational texts. They create a class weather journal and track their individual learning in a meteorologist's notebook. Students then broaden their study of weather as they think about how weather affects people in different places around the world. They move on to further explore how weather affects people by reading a variety of narratives where the characters are affected by a weather event. Students are prompted to think about how the weather affects the choices people make about what to wear and what to do each day. Let's take a look at some of the text. Weather words and what they mean. This informational text reaches readers and teaches readers the meaning of vocabulary associated with weather and meteorology. Through explanations and clear illustration, readers learn the essential components of weather and develop a basic understanding of the factors that cause changes in weather. From clouds to wind and snow to hail, Gail Gibbons uses her gift for describing complex concepts to introduce young readers to the science of weather. The associated band level is 2 to 3. The rationale for using this text is that students' understanding of science of the weather is built as they learn about the components of weather and develop a rich bank of words and scientific concepts to describe sunlight, wind, precipitation, and temperature that will be useful in reading, writing, and speaking about this topic. Using this text, students examine key details and develop a rich vocabulary of weather words. Weather words and what they mean is used in conjunction with other informational texts to support students' use of vocabulary to record the local weather in an interactive class weather journal. Considerations for the reading and the reader is that the structure of this book is supposed to be read in sections to allow students to focus only on the parts of the text relevant to their work in this module. Students' work should only be in the selected sections of the text to build the concept and vocabulary. On the same day in March, A Tour of the World's Wonders is an informational text that teaches readers the meaning of vocabulary associated with weather and meteorology. Through explanations and clear illustrations, readers learn the essential concepts of weather and the basic understanding of the factors that cause changes in weather. The rationale for this book is that it broadens students' understanding of weather concepts and helps them consider how weather affects people locally and around the world. Students examine and retell key details of the text and use the words and illustrations in the text to gather information about weather and its impact on people. On the same day in March, Weather Around the World also helps prepare students for their performance task in which they plan and write an imaginary narrative of how the weather on a particular day affects a main character. Considerations for the reader is that the structure of this book should be done in sections to allow students to only focus on parts of the text relevant to the work in this module. Student work should only be done in selected sections of the text to build context and vocabulary. Here are a few additional central texts for this module. Brave Irene, Umbrella, weather, the snowy day, and one hot summer day. Moving into Module 3, the topic is Trees Are Alive, with a focus being on researching to build knowledge and teach others. In this module, students explore the big ideas that all living things in the natural world have needs in order to survive and grow. Through a close study of trees and living things that depend on them, students take on the roles of researchers and scientists to make observations of the natural world. From those observations, they determine patterns that explain how living things live and grow. Students learn what makes something living or non-living, about different types of living things, and the common needs of all living things. They develop this understanding through research reading and hands-on investigations and record their observations in a living things research notebook. Students then engage in small group and whole group research on how trees provide food for animals. Finally, students engage in supporting small group research of a particular tree, its needs, and how it supports other learning things. Let's take a look at some of the central texts. What's alive? Does this thing need food? Does it need water? Does it need air? Can it grow or move all by itself? This book explains in simple terms, using illustrations and detailed examples, how to determine if something is alive. The text includes drawings and sorting activities and addresses potential areas of confusion. The rationale for using this text is that students develop understanding of what makes something living or non-living, different types of living things, and common needs of all living things in preparation for their study of trees. In addition to building background knowledge, this text is used to develop skills in reading informational text and connecting information within a text to identify patterns. Students use two sections of the text for the reading and assessment, which they respond to text-dependent questions. Considerations for the reader is that this is a relatively low qualitative and quantitative complexity, as well as related activities. Support students in understanding this very abstract concept. Be a Friend to Trees is a richly illustrated non-fiction text that explains why trees are important to people and to animals. Using clear language and common everyday examples, this book explains how trees meet the needs of people and how trees meet the needs of other animals. This book ends with some simple suggestions for protecting our trees, like using less paper and planting a tree. The rationale for using this text is that it supports students as they focus on the needs of animals as living things and how trees help them meet those needs. Students use the text as a base for the whole group and small group research. They learn new vocabulary and use the words and pictures to understand the text, and use sections of the book to create class notes, contributing to shared writing about information they gather. After completing whole group research, students use a similar structured section of the same text more independently to answer the research question, how do animals depend on trees to meet their needs? Considerations for the reader is that this is an excellent text for beginning researchers. The examples of how people and animals depend on trees are concrete and clearly depicted in the labeled illustrations throughout the book, making the information to be gathered very accessible to kindergartners. Students first work as a group to take note and write about how people depend on trees. Students then learn more independently to research the ways animals depend on trees, drawing information from illustrations. Are Trees Alive? And The Tree in the Ancient Forest are also additional central texts that are used to support student learning within this module. The final module is Enjoying and Appreciating Trees, with a focus on contributing to the community. In this module, students build on their scientific knowledge of trees from Module 3 by exploring the importance of trees to people and their communities. Students learn how different people, both real and imaginary, enjoy and appreciate trees. They consider how real people and characters have used trees to fill a need in their community. Students first learn about the different ways people enjoy trees through reading literature and considering how characters appreciate trees. They write about the different ways trees can be enjoyed in their Enjoying Trees journal. They then read about the ways planting trees can contribute to a community through reading informational texts and learn to form and write opinions about where they would choose to plant a tree. Finally, students apply their new knowledge of the importance of trees to people by advocating for their appreciation of trees in their community. Let's look at some of the central texts that support student learning within the module. A Tree is Nice is a simple, beautifully illustrated picture book that describes the value of trees to people and animals. Although stylistically this book often crosses a line between literary and informational text, it offers a wealth of information about the reason people plant trees. The rationale behind this text is that it helps students explore some of the ways people enjoy trees. This thinking prepares students to write and speak about where and why they might plant a tree, and also supports a performance task. The relatively simple content of this book makes it a good vehicle for introducing some of the more complex reading and language skills in kindergarten. The strong and clear purpose of the text offers opportunities to identify and discuss the reasons author gives to support points. Students also explore a variety of prepositions as they read about where trees are found and where different activities take place in relation to the tree. Considerations for the readers are students who live in urban areas may need some additional information about the outdoor experience described in this book. Although most of the examples of the why the trees are nice are very concrete, a few are abstract and may require additional discussion. Mama Miti is a book about a woman who gave seeds and seedlings to women all over Kenya to help their families and communities. The story explores many reasons for planting trees as women come to Mama Miti with a need: food, shelter, clean water that can be met by planting a tree. The story is told in a literary style and beautifully illustrated using the colors and patterns of Kenyan textiles. The simple, repeated structure of this book, along with students' previous work with simpler texts on the same topic, makes this text appropriate for kindergarten. The rationale for using this text is it's part of continuing the study of trees and the ways that planting trees can contribute to community. Students read Mama Miti to continue gathering information about why people plant trees to add to the reasons to plant a tree anchor chart. They compare and contrast the reasons and information from a Mama Miti and A Tree is Nice. They then use the information gathered on both of these texts to state an opinion about where they would plant a tree and why. Considerations is that the language of this text is fairly complex, but comprehension is supported by the repeating pattern of the story and by the activities designed to connect Mama Miti with more simplistic text. A Tree is Nice, read earlier in the module. Additional central text for this module are We Planted a Tree for Emmy, and Gus is a Tree. If you'd like more information about the text complexity of the central text within all 4 modules, are resources available for each grade level and can be downloaded. I hope you enjoy reading these stories as much as your students will. EL likes to say, text is boss. It is the foundation that builds the student learning throughout the year in kindergarten.